10 years ago, did you believe in UFOs or now UAPs?
With everything captured and shared on social media and disclosed by our very own government, have those beliefs changed?
What if I told you the flying saucers appeared on medieval tapestries and ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics?
When man landed on the moon, were they alone? What has been kept hidden from us?
Tune in today as we uncover the truth.
Welcome to Live Life in the Spirit. We are your hosts. I'm Kristen Scharrenberg.
And I'm Pastor Penny Schulz.
We are so glad you're joining us today as we continue our series of the alien phenomena.
Are they our benevolent space brothers, or is something more deceptive and sinister going on? That's what we're going to look at today. Well, in order to just kind of recap, in case you have not caught up on our other two, it was Stargate Portals and Wormholes 1 and 2. We kind of looked at how those stargates and portals have opened. Mm-hmm. And it actually goes, this goes all the way back to ancient Sumer and even before Noah, before the flood. All the ancient civilizations talk about
portals and star people and all different kinds of things. This is not new.
No, the Star Walkers, and we're going to get into the different societies that even the Native Americans claim, and different nationalities all over the world. Mm-hmm. But we did mention, and I want to bring this in, Aleister Crowley. This was back in 1918. He had performed a ritual called the mantra working. He was trying to create a vortex to connect the seen and the unseen. He says it worked and that lamb came through it.
Right.
Well, now actually it's interesting because we'll put up a picture, and lamb really kind of represents, he looks a lot like what we call our alien grays.
And that image comes from what Aleister Crowley drew of what lamb looked like to him, what he saw.
And I want to mention that again too. We've always said that the enemy always takes what God or Jesus has done and twists it. And I find it interesting that Jesus, being the Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world, and Aleister Crowley, the father of Satanism, his deity that came through was lamb. But then about 30 years later, there were two other men. One is the father of Scientology, and they did another ritual called the Babylon Working and tried to open up the same vortex, but wanted to bring in the spirit of
Babylon. Such a great idea.
And many believe that they actually succeeded. Mm-hmm. But this was also, why I bring this up, because when they did that was the year before what?
Israel became a nation.
That's right. So that was in 1947, and Israel becomes a nation in 1948. That's not really a coincidence. Interesting enough, something else that started the whole alien phenomenon right here on our own soil in America happened in 1947, and what was that?
That would be the Roswell incident. And I would imagine, no matter what your beliefs are on UFOs and UAPs, you've at least heard of Roswell.
Mm-hmm. Area 51, Hangar 84. Well, we're going to actually explore. Today's going to be kind of fun because we're going to give you a little background, and this is pulled from my read of people and respected peers, NASA, Dr. Thomas Horn, Dr. Stephen Quayle, Dr. Michael Heiser, Chuck Missler, just to name a smidgen,
L.A. Marzulli.
Yes, L.A. Marzulli. So UFOs, are they even real?
I'm pretty sure that after today, if you were on the fence, you're going to realize there is just too much substantiated evidence and witness accounts to say that they're not.
And these are reliable witnesses too. Most of them that don't really gain anything. The ones who have had true encounters don't stand to gain any fame or anything from it. In fact, they would rather have just the opposite. So for those of you who are listening to us on our podcast, we absolutely love that. But there are benefits to watching us on podcast because there are a lot of pictures that we put up and a lot of images that you miss out on.
True.
But we'll try to do our best to bring you up to speed and kind of describe it.
So we're just going to go through some of the credible sightings that have that have been all around the world over a span of many decades. So this one is pretty fascinating. This is in the USA Today, June 18th, 1997. And this is not a saucer.
It looks like a boomerang.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It looks like a boomerang with lights. And it's massive.
And actually this one has a similar type shape, has showed up in a lot of places. This is not the only picture.
No.
But it's a very credible and picture, photograph. They've said that it has not been doctored or altered in any way.
So going back even farther, in July of 1952, the Washington Times-Herald has an article, "Jets alerted for saucers over the Capitol."
And then fiery objects outrun jets over Capitol. I think that's actually the post right there that we have. 1993, what did we have?
There was a UFO over Mexico City. In November of 1996, over Seoul, Korea, there was something else that was rather strange.
CNN and Reuters reported on a huge cigar-shaped UFO that was televised for 10 minutes. The cigar-shaped one has been recorded multiple times throughout all the years and all the different places in the world.
So then if we go to some of our very own astronauts.
Well, we're looking for credible witnesses, right? So it's been posted in the newspaper. We've seen it on TV. But what about those people who have really been in the trenches? How about our astronauts? And we're not just talking those that landed on the moon.
So Ed Mitchell, who was on the Apollo 14, in April 1996, in an interview with Dateline, said NASA is covering up what really happened at Roswell, New Mexico.
And we're going to look at that a little bit later. But astronaut Gordon Cooper, May 15th, 1963, he did 22 orbits in the Mercury capsule, and he saw a green UFO.
And that one was also tracked by Australian radar.
Yes, they were tracking it at the exact same time.
He's testified before the United Nations that UFOs are visiting this planet.
In 1996, he said, "We are being visited by aliens."
James Lovell and Frank Borman, on the Gemini 7 in December 1965, the second orbit of that 14-day flight, said they saw a UFO.
Gemini Control presumed it was the final stage of their own Titan booster. They indicated that they had both the booster and the UFO in sight.
Right.
Walter Schirra was on the Mercury 8 in 1968, first uses the code name Santa Claus to indicate UFOs near the space capsule. Confirmed by Maurice Chatelain, chief of NASA Communication Systems in 1979, and from there on, that was the code term used for UFO sightings with Santa Claus.
This is a big one. Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin, probably names everyone has heard. Apollo 11, July 21st, 1969, both apparently saw lights in or on a crater on the moon, and there were unconfirmed reports that there were other spacecraft there.
They said 2 large objects were watching them. We're actually we got a hold of a transcript that we're gonna read here in a little bit.
And Armstrong is actually quoted in some reports alluding to a CIA cover-up, which, that's not on U.S. soil.
Nope. So here we have NASA astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Apollo 11, Buzz Aldrin, Apollo 11, Ed Mitchell, Apollo 14, Eugene Cernan, Apollo 17, Maurice Chatelain, Chief NASA Communication Systems, confirmed Armstrong's report. These are all people who are of top standing,
right, in high regard.
Witnesses. These guys had first-hand knowledge and were eyewitnesses.
Another one, John Blaha, a veteran of 5 space shuttle missions. He was a recent resident of the Russian Mir space station. On March 24th, 1989, an amateur radio intercepted Houston. This is Discovery. We still have alien spacecraft under observation.
So we actually got this from Dr. Thomas Horn, and this is from a book that Otto Binder, a former NASA employee, under sworn testimony, finally started to release. Numerous ham operators heard it as well. Christopher Kraft, former director of NASA Houston Tracking Base, is credited with releasing the related mission control transcript information following his retirement. We notice this with everything that we kind of been watching. You know, once you hit retirement, then you can kind of talk about this stuff.
Right. Yes.
And it's interesting how some of the things they don't care that people are talking about. They let some things out, but they don't.
Some other ones, the lid is still on.
Well, actually, why I got this is Man Walks on the Moon. This happened in 1969, and when it was published, it was July 21st. My folks got married on July 12th, but their wedding did not come out in the paper until the 21st, the same day that Man Walks on the Moon. And so my folks have that. I mean, my dad would have had that newspaper anyway. He's always been a big Trekkie fan, anything space. But it was really cool. It happened at the same time. So I grew up knowing about Man Walking on the Moon from
a young age.
Yeah. So it's always been a little extra special at our family on that bit. But what we're about to tell you now, buckle up your seatbelts.
So there were reports from the astronauts and mission control that there were large beings watching them from the moon and around the moon when we landed there. Neil Armstrong said, "We have company."
Now, a former NASA employee said, "What's there?" Mission control calling Apollo 11.
Their response was, "These babies are huge, sir, enormous. You wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecraft out there lined up on the far side of the crater edge. They are on the moon watching us."
And a different NASA employee said, "They are giant things?"
No, this is not an optical illusion. No one is going to believe this.
Mission control, what is happening? What is wrong with you?
Apollo said, "They are here under the surface."
Mission control, what's there? And at this time, the mission erupted.
And at that point, there was a...
The dark side of the moon.
That's right. Somebody forgot to put their phone on silent.
I thought I did have it on silent.
At this point, there was some interference in the transmission of the signal between Apollo 11 and Mission Control. So then Apollo 11 continues. "We saw some visitors. They were there for a while observing the instruments."
Mission control, repeat your last information.
"I say that there were other spaceships lined up on the other side of the crater."
Mission control, repeat.
"Let us sound this orbit, and then it's kind of fuzzy, interference. My hands are shaking so badly I can't do anything about it. I asked if they should film it."
Mission control said, "Have you picked up anything?"
"I didn't have any film at hand. 3 shots of the saucers or whatever they were ruining the film."
Mission control, on your way? Is the uproar with the UFOs over?
"They landed there. They are there and they are watching us."
Mission control, the mirrors, have you set them up?
"Yes, they are in the right place, but whoever made those spaceships surely can come tomorrow and remove them."
Former chief of NASA Communication Systems, Maurice Chatelain, claimed the encounter was common knowledge in NASA, but nobody has talked about it until now. So here's the thing. You say, that sounds a little out there. Okay, there's the whole 2 camps. One, we landed on the moon and just put up our flag and no big deal. 2, we landed on the moon and there were things on the moon with us. 3, we never even went to the moon and it was all a Hollywood hoax.
Right.
Why do you think that would be coming out and really circulating right now?
Well, it's just all part of this deception, really, I think. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what purpose it serves to make it seem like we never went there.
Well, and we landed, we staked the flag there, we brought back moon rocks, we brought back dust, moon dust. I mean, you had to get it from somewhere. Yeah. But my biggest question is, we went to the moon in 1969. Why in the heck have we not, with all the space advances that we have, why have we never gone back?
There could be a reason.
So let's look at the different UFO documentation. Over 6,000 professional publications have been put out in English just on this phenomenon.
There have been 2,200 foreign publications.
1,350 UFO-related periodicals. And I love this. This is my favorite.
So there have been 700 books written documenting UFOs between 1650 and 1945. Which that's still amazing, but the really big fact that blew our minds
is 300 books were written prior to 1650.
Let that sink in.
We mentioned that there are flying saucers that are in tapestries to show up in
medieval times.
Yeah.
Egyptian hieroglyphs. There are saucers.
Incan, Mayan ruins
Yes.
now are showing saucers. If they're looking for them, they're finding these different things.
Things that they didn't know what was before.
So there's this widespread belief. In fact, 57% of Americans believe in UFOs. And this statistic is so old, I would say it's way higher than that.
So 15% believe they have seen a UFO.
And 3% claim to have an abduction experience.
Now, I know that 3% seems like a small amount, and I know a lot of people think that it's hillbillies in the middle of nowhere that claim these things as a claim to fame or something. But let this sink in. 3% of the population is over 5 million people.
And these are old statistics.
Right.
So it's way more than 5 million, I would say. We're probably upwards to 7 to 8 million. And it doesn't seem to matter if they are believers or not
believers.
I know there's been a lot of stuff that, well, if you believe in Jesus and you just call on his name, they can't do anything. It gets a little gray. I mean, if you are actively awake and you are consciously with it, and you start calling out on the name of Jesus, yes, there have been recorded cases where they stop.
Right.
But then there have been a lot of recorded cases of people who were believers that were taken, things done to them, they come back, they have the scars, they have the trauma, but they don't remember it, they've been in a brain fog.
Right. You can't call on the name of Jesus if you're not awake. And if they're doing something to keep you from being able to be awake.
Mm-hmm. So why would God allow this? That's a good question. Why are they doing this? This is what we're going to unpack and we're really going to get into, because this is the greatest deception. So there's a lot of paradoxical behavior. There's multiple competent witnesses.
It's been plotted on radar.
They leave tangible traces on the ground.
It's been photographed.
Excess over 6,000 miles per hour with no sonic boom.
They've been able to do right angle turns at 1,600 miles per hour.
And they materialize and dematerialize without a trace.
None of that can happen
with anything earthly technology.
Right.
There's a lot of theories on what these beings are, and in fact, if you watch Ancient Aliens on History Channel, they subscribe more to this theory. But one author who's written a lot, Erich von Däniken, suggests that our forefathers received visits from someone from another place, destroyed some of the people here and created the Homo sapiens, and that they have continued to come back and do different things throughout. So this is that whole, you watch any fiction movie, Superman, I mean, it doesn't matter. All of your superheroes that come from another planet, what's happened? They destroyed the planet, somebody destroyed the planet they were on, or somehow they destroyed it and they're looking for another place and they create life, and then that's the theory, one of the theories.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this one even
going around
says that, like, whatever was here, they came and they changed it to create man as we know it now.
Mm-hmm.
And that they come back and help, throughout history. So basically, it's a religion. It's their explanation of the ancient gods that are depicted on hieroglyphs and mythology, and they changed creation.
They continue to come back, and on the hieroglyphics it shows animal/human transgenic hybrids. back then mixing themselves with our animals and people. This becomes very interesting, this blending and this mixing.
Because that's not new.
No. In fact, so as Christians, where do we turn to find answers? Actually, believe it or not, the Bible does talk quite a bit about this.
Yes.
And it goes all the way back in Genesis in chapter 6.
In Genesis 6, it talks about this creation of a supernatural being mixing with women to create the Nephilim. So that would be the fallen angels mixing with women to create the Nephilim.
And Jesus says in Matthew, he gives us a little tidbit. He gives us a clue, as I think, to what to expect. Because as the days of Noah, this is when Jesus is talking about the end of days, the end times. The disciples were asking him this. He says the days of Noah will be comparable to the times leading up to his return. So is it possible that the abductions and the visitations are what is leading up to that time of Noah? Many authors and many theologians say that this actually goes all the way back to it is a seed war. And this goes way back to Genesis at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
God says, I will put an enemy between your seed and the seed of the woman. The seed of the serpent, the seed of the woman. What is this really all about? It's about seed wars. And unless you get that, most of this really doesn't make sense. This is where we're going to get into the whole fallen realm again, but this is why it is so crucial. When the angels fell and landed on Hermon, the main thing they knew they wanted to, after God created man and woman, was to disrupt the seed, because they were made in what? The likeness of God. And they wanted to change that likeness. Well, the only way they could do that was to alter
the DNA.
And ultimately, I don't know if they knew that Christ was on the horizon, but if they did, that was one way of stopping him from being able to come if they changed the DNA.
Right.
Which makes a lot of sense in all of the other religions and the cultures and mythology, because you look at the Greeks and the Romans, they have, or even the Sumerians and Mayans, they have demigods, or what is it? It's half human, half God.
And it's all these attempts by Satan in the fallen realm to continue to dirty the seed.
So we're going to go back to Genesis 6:4. We're going to put this up for you so you can see it.
The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went into the daughters of humans, who bore them children. These were the heroes that were of old, warriors of renown.
Okay, we're going to really dig into this a lot more later on. But what we want to get across here, Nephilim literally means fallen ones. And there's an implication here that the sons of God, this is not the sons of Seth. Again, we'll get into this much more in future episodes. But it was the sons of God, which are the Haben Elohim, which means the sons of God, which throughout all the Old Testament refers to only angels. In the translation, they saw the daughters of man, which is really Adam, of Adam, right? So we're not talking Seth and Cain, because they would still be the same. It's not, they wouldn't change anything.
Right.
And they bore from them, they took them, there was implied force, and they bore for them these mighty men of renown. So here we have this Nephilim species. That's what actually causes Noah.
Right.
And the flood. And this is a really cool thing, because it talks about Noah being, it says perfect and righteous. People just think, when you read that, you think everybody else was just sinful and he was the only good guy.
Right.
Actually, that's not it at all. Somehow God had preserved him and his family. They were the only pure bloods, DNA, that had not been genetically altered. But here's the thing. Perfect, which the word here is tamim. That is the plural, which means unblemished, spotless, perfect. Guess what they call the sacrificial lamb that is used at Pesach, which would be Passover?
What do they call it?
They call it the Talmud. It's the singular form because it's perfect.
It's unblemished.
It's blemished. It's spotless. It's the only thing that can be used for sacrifice. I didn't see that until just this last bit. It's like, oh my gosh, that is the exact same thing.
Same word.
And only Noah was the tummy. So when Jesus says it'll be just like the days of Noah, a lot of people think, well, they're just doing business as usual. They're eating, drinking, they're marrying, they're given in marriage. Because Jesus does talk about that, but he talks about that separate.
Right. No, what he's referring to at that point is that the Nephilim and the fallen realm will be back here on Earth.
Which then, this is where we're getting into with the aliens and the ancient alien theory that they are our brothers. The whole point is this religion. This is the big, big deception that we want you to understand. And this is why we're spending quite a bit of time on this series, and we are really going to dig in. Because the great deception is that these things are going to show up. If you've noticed, all you got to do is watch Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you haven't heard of anything, really. I mean, until Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you start getting what? Star Trek. And then it just started snowballing from there. And you'll see these waves back in the 80s. Oh, huge, all about aliens. And then it kind of changed to superheroes. And then it was all about aliens again. And then it was superheroes. Now we're getting up into the 2020s. And where are we at now? Now we're both aliens and superheroes. But the superheroes are what?
Aliens.
Aliens. You know, Superman is my favorite. Always has been. But now I have to dang, I can't even like him. Because think about it. He is the son of a God. Mm-hmm. Kal-El is his name. Right. Son of God, basically. He is the sun god because where does he get his strength from?
The sun.
The sun. He is invincible. Justice and peace for all. Gotta love Superman. But at the same time,
you want to be aware of the message that's sending.
Mm-hmm. And how it has been formulating and how it has been changing our culture. I don't know, for those of you who maybe get into any of those comic things, Supergirl had a series out, and I don't know, maybe it still is, I don't remember, but this has been back a while ago. It really took a turn. And I was watching Supergirl because whatever was going on, indoctrination or whatever in society, they were implementing that into their series. And when we were dealing with the first thing of illegal aliens, and this has been back quite a while ago, here, oh wow, they were doing the exact same thing there, or racism. But the racism was humans versus aliens, and aliens were the poor guys, you know. I mean, they were the ones on the outs, and they were the illegal aliens because they weren't invited here, and we didn't have the hospitality for them. It's just interesting how this whole slant went, and it's like, man, they are just trying to grow and ripen a culture that is going, yes, we want you. And shortly after that, we even had the Pope saying what? He said he would even baptize our space brothers. Now, we're going to get into a little bit more with the Pope, the Catholic Church, and a telescope that they have put up on Mount Graham, which is, I think, more expensive than even a government's telescope. The interesting thing is, the name is?
The Lucifer.
And we're going to let you know what some of the priests who run that telescope, what they have to say of what they've seen on the other side of that telescope. But it is changing and formulating people's opinions and mindset and getting us ripe to want to
preparing the way,
welcome them. But here's the thing. This is the great deception. I hate to say this is not our space brothers and sisters.
They are not benevolent beings here for the greater good or to help us, but that's certainly what they're going to try to tell us.
And that is the connection between Genesis 6, the seed war, and what's about to take place. Many people who have had encounters with these beings will tell you it was sheer terror and demonic in nature. And that is what we want to spend more time exploring. And we're bringing this to you because we don't want you to be deceived.
And it says in the Bible that many will be deceived
In the end time, even the elite and the elect.
So Matthew 24:24 says, "For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and produce great signs and omens to lead astray, if possible, even the elect."
That's really at the heart of this. It's the total deception. To pull anything away from Christ.
Right.
This has become the new religion, so to speak. Everybody gathers out at Roswell, New Mexico, and here's the thing. If you go out there, it's not what you would think. If you're having these Comic-Cons or whatever, you would think that NASA would be out there, or aviation places, or people looking for smart, intelligent kids that are interested in this kind of stuff. But it's not. It's all New Ager stuff. It's religious tarot cards. It's palm reading, horoscopes. It's anything but
science.
Science.
Yeah.
Well, what we want to do, we just kind of broached on this subject really. I mean, there's so much. And we wanted to just bring about the credibility of all these sightings that have happened, the pictures that have taken place, the astronauts that have seen. Maybe give you ponder as to what really happened on the moon. But what we want to dig into next then is what started everything here before we ever even went to the moon.
Right.
And how did we get the technology to go to the moon? And that was in 1947. And you might be surprised to know that the date and the place was not an accident.
It was not.
You're going to want to tune in next time to find out.
Well, this is definitely out of this world and maybe taking you out of your comfort zone.
And whether you choose to believe this or not, well, that's up to you.
But you can't say, we didn't tell you.
So until next time,
live long and prosper.